That morning, no one expected a single act of defiance to change military history. What began as routine training became a moment every soldier on base would remember, and one that would test the difference between following orders and doing what's right. The sun hung low over Coronado Naval Base, casting long shadows across the training grounds where the Pacific's salt air mingled with the sharp tang of gun oil and wet sand. Petty Officer First Class Elena Vasquez stood at attention in her crisp digital camouflage utilities, her boots planted firmly in the damp earth. At her side, Rex, her Belgian Malinois, mirrored her posture, ears perked, body taut, his black mask of fur blending into the early dawn haze. The K9 unit's morning drill was underway, a symphony of barked commands and synchronized movements that echoed off the low barracks buildings. "Handler, deploy!" The voice of Master Chief Harlan Reed cut through the air like a knife. Reed, a broad-shouldered veteran with 20 years in naval special warfare, oversaw the integrated training for the SEAL teams. His eyes, sharp under the brim of his cap, scanned the line of operators and their support personnel. Elena's team was attached to SEAL Team 3 for this cycle, cross-training to sharpen the bonds that could mean life or death in the field. She gave the hand signal, a subtle flick of her fingers, and Rex moved forward with mechanical precision, his paws silent on the gravel path leading to the mock compound. The exercise was standard, breach and clear, a simulated hostile structure with K9 units providing scent detection and perimeter security. Elena whispered a low command in Rex's ear, her voice barely audible over the distant hum of an approaching Black Hawk. "Stay sharp, boy." It was their ritual, a thread of reassurance woven into the rigid protocol. Rex's tail gave the faintest twitch, his dark eyes locking onto hers for a split second before refocusing on the task. From the sidelines, a ripple of murmurs broke the disciplined silence. Lieutenant Marcus Hale, a rising star in the platoon with a reputation for quick wit and quicker judgments, leaned against a Humvee, his arms crossed. Hale was all lean muscle and easy confidence, the kind of officer who commanded respect through charisma rather than volume. But today, his gaze lingered on Elena a beat too long. "Vasquez, you treating that dog like a therapy pet now?" His tone carried the edge of banter, but it drew chuckles from a cluster of junior SEALs nearby. "Whisper sweet nothings all you want, stateside. But in the sandbox, we don't have time for fairy tales." Elena's jaw tightened, but she kept her eyes forward, her response clipped and professional. "Negative, sir. Just reinforcing the bond." She didn't elaborate. In the K9 world, handlers knew the science. Positive reinforcement built trust faster than commands alone. Rex wasn't just a tool, he was her extension. Trained to detect explosives, track insurgents, and sense threats humans missed. Their partnership had earned her a commendation during a joint op in Afghanistan 2 years back, when Rex's nose had uncovered a hidden IED cache that saved a Marine patrol. But here, in the SEAL's high-stakes arena, such subtleties were often dismissed as softness. Master Chief Reed shot Hale a warning glance, but let it pass. Team cohesion demanded a certain latitude for ribbing, as long as it didn't fracture the chain. The drill pressed on. Elena and Rex took point on the perimeter sweep, the dog's harness clipped to her lead as they circled the wireframe building rigged with inert training aids. The air grew heavier with the scent of simulated smoke from pyrotechnics, and the crackle of radios filled the pauses between orders. "Clear left," Elena reported into her comms, her voice steady as Rex's nose worked the ground, nostrils flaring. Inside the compound, the SEALs moved like shadows, Hale leading his fire team through the breach, flashbangs popping in controlled bursts. Elena monitored from the outer ring, Rex straining slightly at an unfamiliar odor wafting from the east flank. She knelt, her gloved hand on his flank, feeling the subtle vibration of his growl. "Easy," she murmured again, the word a bridge between them. Rex's training kicked in. He sat, alerting with a paw tap on the dirt. But Hale's team emerged moments later, the exercise wrapping with a clean clear. As they regrouped, the lieutenant clapped a hand on a teammate's shoulder, his laughter carrying. "See that? Vasquez over there, cooing to her furry sidekick like it's date night. What's next? Belly rubs during infill?" The group erupted in good-natured guffaws, the kind that bonded men under pressure, but cut deeper for those on the receiving end. One of the E5s, a wiry corpsman named Torres, joined in. Heard she picked him out of the litter herself, personal therapy dog for the handler who couldn't hack it with the boys. Elena felt the heat rise in her chest, but she swallowed it down, turning to Rex instead. His eyes met hers, calm and unwavering, as if he sensed the undercurrent. She unclipped his lead for the cool-down walk, the base's morning routine resuming around them, boots thudding on concrete, the distant bark of another K9 unit, the faint whine of rotors as the Black Hawk taxied in. Master Chief Reed approached, his expression neutral. "Ignore the noise, Vasquez. Focus on the op. You're cleared for the full integration next week. Team 3's heading out for live sims in Nevada." She nodded, saluting crisply. "Understood, Master Chief." But as she led Rex back to the kennels, the whispers lingered like static on the radio. In the SEAL community, loyalty was currency, earned through shared hardship. Elena had proven hers time and again, yet the barrier of her gender and her bond with Rex persisted, a quiet fracture in the ranks. Little did they know, that same bond would soon be tested in ways no drill could simulate. The kennels were a sanctuary of routine, fresh water bowls clinking, the soft pant of dogs settling into crates. Elena ran a hand along Rex's ears, his fur warm from the exertion. "We got this," she whispered, more to herself than him. Outside, the base stirred toward midday briefings, the chain of command humming with the precision of a well-oiled machine. But beneath it all, the seeds of doubt had been sown, doubt in her methods, her place, and the invisible line between obedience and instinct. As the sun climbed higher, casting glare off the Pacific, Elena reviewed the after-action report in the ops tent. Hale's signature scrawled at the bottom, "K9 support adequate. Recommend streamlining handler-dog interactions for efficiency." It was a small note, procedural on the surface, but it gnawed at her. Efficiency over trust. In the field, where split seconds decided fates, such shortcuts could unravel everything. That evening, as the team debriefed over MREs in the mess hall, the banter resurfaced. Torres slid into the seat across from her, his grin disarming. "No hard feelings, Vasquez, just keeping it light. But seriously, whispering, come on, the dog's got a tougher hide than that." Elena met his eyes, her response measured. "It's not about toughness, Corpsman. It's about reading the room, or in this case, the air. Rex doesn't miss what we do." Hale, overhearing from the next table, raised his coffee mug in mock toast. "To the Whisperer and her wonder dog, may they save us all from boredom." Laughter rippled again, but Elena held her ground, fork pausing over her tray. The room smelled of reheated rations and machine oil, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. She thought of the upcoming mission brief, a high-risk insertion sim in the Mojave, where SEAL Team 3 would test full-spectrum ops with K9 integration. If mockery was the price of proving her worth, she'd pay it. But deep down, she knew Rex's silence spoke louder than any retort. By lights out, the base quieted, the only sounds the lap of waves against the shore and the occasional patrol bootfall. Elena lay in her rack, Rex's crate nearby in the handler's quarters, his breathing a steady rhythm in the dark. Tomorrow's training would push harder, demands from command filtering down like orders from on high. She closed her eyes, the weight of expectation settling like desert dust. In this world of rigid hierarchy, loyalty wasn't just to the team. It was to the truth only she and Rex could uncover. And soon, That truth would demand more than whispers. The days blurred into a rhythm of precision and preparation at Coronado, where the salt-laced wind off the Pacific carried the faint echo of orders from the training fields. Elena Vasquez rose before dawn, her movements methodical as she checked Rex's gear in the kennels, harness straps taut, scent vials secured in the pouch at her belt. The Belgian Malinois stirred in his crate, his amber eyes catching the first slivers of light filtering through the chain-link windows. She clipped on his lead, and they stepped out into the cool air, the gravel crunching under their boots and paws as they joined the morning formation. Master Chief Reed's briefing tent hummed with activity, maps pinned to easel boards and the low crackle of a field radio tuning into weather updates from Pendleton. SEAL Team 3's integration with the K9 unit was ramping up, the Mojave Sims looming like a shadow over the horizon. Reed stood at the head, his voice gravelly and direct. Listen up. This isn't a walk in the park. We're simulating full-spectrum ops, infill, detection, exfil under simulated enemy fire. Vasquez, your dog's on point for threat ID, no deviations. Stick to protocol. Eleanor nodded from her spot in the back row, Rex sitting alert at her side, his flanks rising and falling in sync with her breath. The team, Hale's fire team at the core, flanked by operators like Torres and a handful of E6s, filled the space with their presence. Utilities starched and boots polished to a dull shine. Hale caught her eye briefly, his expression neutral now, the earlier banter shelved for the sake of the mission brief. But the undercurrent lingered, a subtle tension in the way conversations paused when she entered a room. After the brief, the unit broke into specialized drills. Eleanor and Rex headed to the scent lane, a winding obstacle course rigged with hidden odor traps, traces of C4 simulants, cadaver scents, and volatile chemicals buried under layers of sand and debris. The sun beat down, turning the air thick and shimmering as she gave the release command. Search! Rex surged forward, nose to the ground, his body weaving through the pylons with an economy of motion honed over hundreds of hours. Elena followed at a measured pace, her radio clipped to her shoulder, reporting alerts as he marked each find with a precise sit and paw raise. From the observation platform, Hale watched with his team, binoculars in hand. The wind tugged at the edges of the canvas awning, carrying snippets of their discussion. Solid work from the dog, Torres admitted, lowering his own scope. But Vasquez, always that extra whisper, like she's got to baby him through it. Hale shrugged, his tone lighter than before, but still edged. Protocol's protocol. If it works, fine. Just hope it doesn't slow us down when it counts. Their words drifted on the breeze, faint but unmistakable, as Elena knelt to praise Rex with a quiet, "Good boy," her hand steady on his collar. She felt the weight of their scrutiny, a reminder that in this brotherhood, every action was measured against the unyielding standard of efficiency. Lunch in the mess was a brief respite, the clatter of trays and murmur of voices filling the space. Elena sat alone with her field notebook, sketching notes on Rex's response times, when Master Chief Reed slid into the bench across from her. His plate was simple, rations and black coffee, and he ate with the deliberate focus of a man who'd seen too many meals interrupted. Vasquez, walk me through your handler log. Commands pushing for tighter integration metrics before Nevada. She flipped open the binder, detailing the bond-building exercises. Controlled exposure to stressors, vocal cues calibrated to Rex's frequency response. It's not indulgence, Master Chief. The data shows a 22% faster alert rate with reinforced trust. In the field, that's seconds, lives. Reed nodded slowly, his eyes flicking to Rex, who lay at her feet, ears twitching at the ambient noise. I get it. But Hale's got pull upstairs. He's recommending we phase out non-essential interactions for the sim. Says it muddies the chain. Eleanor's fork paused mid-air, the steam from her meal curling upward. "With respect, sir, that's a risk. Rex reads cues humans overlook, stress pheromones, micro-shifts in air pressure. Whispering reinforces without distraction." Reed leaned back, the chair creaking under his frame. "Noted. I'll run interference, but keep it tight. This team's only as strong as its links." He stood, tray in hand, leaving her with the echo of his words and the faint scent of gun cleaner clinging to his uniform. Afternoon brought weapons qualls on the range, the sharp report of M4s punctuating the haze of cordite. Elena qualified with her sidearm, then shifted to Rex's tactical integration, simulated protection drills where he shadowed her through mock ambushes. The other handlers worked nearby, their dogs a chorus of controlled barks, but Elena's focus narrowed to the space between her and Rex. As they cleared the final lane, Hale's team rotated in, their laughter carrying over the berm. "Look at that! Vasquez and her shadow pup, inseparable as ever," one of the E5s quipped, holstering his weapon. Hale didn't join in this time, but his glance toward her held a flicker of appraisal, as if weighing her resolve. By evening, the base settled into debriefs and maintenance. Elena groomed Rex in the kennels, brushing out the sand from his coat, the repetitive strokes a meditation amid the day's grind. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting long shadows on the concrete floor, and the distant thrum of a helo winding down for the night filtered through. She thought of Reed's warning, the subtle pushback from Hale's recommendations. In the SEAL world, doubt could cascade like a failed op, eroding trust, fracturing the unit. Yet Rex's steady gaze met hers, unyielding, a silent affirmation that their bond was no weakness, but the core of her strength. As she secured the kennel door, the radio on her hip crackled to life. "Vasquez, report to ops. Mission packet update." She acknowledged, clipping the lead for the short trek across the compound. The path was lit by sodium lamps, their glow pooling on the wet pavement from an earlier mist. Hale was there already, poring over sat imagery with Reed, the room thick with the scent of fresh printouts and cooling coffee. "Petty officer," Hale said by way of greeting, his voice professional now, the mockery stripped away. "We're adjusting the infill route. Your K9's slotted for early detection. Any concerns?" Elena stepped forward, Rex at heel. "None, sir. We'll be ready." But as she reviewed the maps, the jagged terrain of the Mojave, the simulated threats marked in red, she sensed the test ahead. The sim wasn't just about skills, it was about proving the intangible, the quiet loyalty that whispers built and orders alone couldn't sustain. Outside, the night air cooled, carrying the promise of trials to come, where silence would speak louder than any command. The Mojave Desert stretched like a vast, unforgiving canvas under the relentless sun, its cracked earth baking in the midday heat as the convoy rumbled toward the simulation site. Dust devils swirled in the distance, kicked up by the wind that carried the faint, acrid scent of creosote bushes and sun-scorched sand. Elena Vasquez gripped the door handle of the up-armored Humvee, her eyes scanning the horizon through the reinforced glass. Rex sat beside her in the modified rear compartment, his harness secured to the floor mounts, head tilted toward the vibrations of the engine. The K9's nose twitched at the unfamiliar odors seeping through the vents, traces of diesel exhaust mixed with the dry mineral tang of the terrain. SEAL Team 3 had deployed from Coronado 2 days prior, the live sim a capstone to weeks of integration training. Master Chief Reed rode shotgun up front, his voice steady over the internal comms as he coordinated with the lead vehicle. "Vasquez, confirm Rex's status. We're 2 mics out from drop-off." She checked the dog's vitals on her tablet, heart rate nominal, hydration levels optimal, then ran a gloved hand along his flank. "All green, Master Chief. He's locked in." No whisper this time. The protocol for transport was strict, voices minimized to avoid external detection in a real op. But Rex's eyes met hers, a silent acknowledgement that needed no words. Lieutenant Hale commanded the platoon from the trailing MRAP. His fire team distributed across the vehicles. The sim scenario was layered. Infiltrate a mock insurgent compound hidden in a dry wash, detect and neutralize simulated threats, then exfil under escalating enemy resistance from role players and embedded pyrotechnics. Elena's role was pivotal, Rex on point for explosive ordnance detection, her inputs feeding directly into Hale's tactical decisions. The air in the Humvee grew warmer, the AC straining against the desert's grip as they crested a ridge and the site came into view. A cluster of low-slung structures camouflaged with netting, ringed by razor wire and observation posts manned by OPFOR actors. The convoy halted at the staging area, a cleared patch of hardpan where engineers had erected tents and refueling stations. Boots hit the ground with synchronized thuds, the team forming up under Reed's barked orders. Gear check, comms test in 30 seconds. Elena unclipped Rex, leading him out into the blinding light. The dog's paws padded softly on the gravel, his ears swiveling to the chorus of unzipping packs and radio static. She attached the tactical lead, its quick-release buckle clicking into place, and scanned the horizon for anomalies. Rex's training mirrored her own vigilance. Hale approached as the team assembled, his utilities dusted with the fine red soil, map board under one arm. "Vasquez, you're with my element on infill. Dog leads the scent sweep from the breach point. Keep it clean, no freelancing." His tone was all business now, the base banter evaporated in the sim's gravity. Elena saluted, her response crisp. "Affirmative, sir. Rex will mark and hold." Torres, the corpsman, fell in beside Hale, adjusting his medkit with a nod her way. No jokes today, just the weight of readiness etched in his posture. The briefing wrapped under the tent's canvas flap, the air thick with the smell of instant coffee and laminated charts. Reed outlined the ROE. Non-lethal sim rounds only, but threats escalated realistically. IED indicators, sniper overwatch, potential hostage extractions. Elena noted the wind patterns on the topo map, factoring how they might carry scents Rex could pick up from afar. As the team dispersed to final preps, she knelt with Rex at the perimeter of the staging area, running a silent cue, a hand signal for search mode. He responded with a subtle shift in stance, muscles coiling like a spring. Insertion began at dusk, the sun dipping behind the jagged mountains and painting the sky in streaks of orange and purple. The team fast-roped from a hovering Blackhawk, the rotor wash whipping sand into eddies that stung exposed skin. Elena hit the ground rolling, Rex dropping beside her on a separate line, his harness designed for aerial descent, paws absorbing the impact with practiced grace. The helo's thump faded into the night, leaving only the whisper of wind through the scrub and the soft beep of suppressed earpieces. Hale's voice crackled over comms. "Element Alpha, move to objective. Vasquez, advance with Rex on the east flank." They ghosted forward, in bounding overwatch, shadows merging with the terrain. Elena's boots sank slightly into the loose soil, each step measured to avoid noise. Rex ranged ahead on a 20-meter lead, nose working the air currents, his black form nearly invisible against the darkening earth. The compound loomed ahead, floodlights simulating guard posts flickering intermittently. Tension built as they neared the wire. A faint alert from Rex, a low chuff barely audible, halted the advance. Elena signaled the team down, her hand on his collar feeling the taut wire of his frame. "Possible contact," she whispered into her mic, voice pitched low. Hale's response was immediate. "Confirm, hold position." But as Rex pawed the ground insistently, circling a cluster of rocks, Elena's gut tightened. The sim's IED props were inert, but Rex's response felt too real, pheromones of stress, perhaps from an overlooked actor, or something amiss in the setup. Torres flanked her position, his breathing steady over the net. Dog, picking up ghosts. The words carried a trace of the old skepticism, but Eleanor ignored it, trusting the bond. She gave Rex the encouragement cue, a soft palm press, and he zeroed in, sitting sharp at the base of a boulder. "Alert confirmed. Recommend bypass or EOD scan," she reported. Hale weighed it, the pause stretching like the shadows around them. "Negative. Push through. Time's ticking." The order hung, a test of chain versus instinct. They proceeded, but the unease lingered. As the breach team stacked at the entry, a distant pop echoed, pyro simulating small arms fire. Rex growled low, body pivoting toward the sound, his hackles rising. Elena's hand steadied him, but in that moment, the sim blurred into something sharper. Hale's fire team flowed through the gap, clearing rooms with practiced efficiency, the crackle of sim rounds punctuating the night. Elena and Rex held the outer cordon, sweeping for secondary threats. Deeper in, the structure's interior smelled of dust and staged oil, props for realism. But Rex strained against the lead. Alerting again toward a shadowed alcove, Elena froze, her flashlight beam catching the glint of wiring that shouldn't be there, a misrigged charge, live voltage humming faintly from a forgotten power source. "Stand down! Electrical hazard!" she called, voice cutting through the op. Hale spun, his weapon trained, as Torres rushed to assess. The sim halted abruptly, floodlights snapping on to reveal the error, an engineer's oversight, a jury-rigged demo device left powered, capable of sparking a real fire in the dry tinder. Reed's voice boomed over the external PA. "Cease exercise. Safety breach confirmed." The team extracted, faces grim under the sudden glare, as techs swarmed to neutralize the fault. Back at staging, under the harsh tent lights, Hale debriefed with Reed, his expression unreadable. "Close call. Vasquez, your call saved gear, and maybe us." Eleanor nodded, unclipping Rex's harness, the dog's fur warm and dusted with sand. No mockery now, just the quiet respect of a lesson learned. Torres clapped her shoulder lightly. "Good eyes, or nose, I guess." But as the adrenaline ebbed, Elena felt the ripple. Her methods, once dismissed, had bridged the gap between protocol and peril. The night cooled rapidly, stars pricking the black sky overhead. Elena settled Rex with water and a blanket in the transport crate, his breathing evening out. The incident report would note it, a near miss that underscored the value of intuition in the chain. Hale lingered nearby, watching. "Whispers or not, that bond works. Keep it up for the full run tomorrow." It wasn't praise, exactly, but progress in the rigid world of ranks. As the team bunked down in the field tents, the desert wind sighing through the flaps, Elena lay awake, the weight of the day settling. Rex's crate hummed softly beside her cot, a reminder that loyalty's proof came not in words, but in the saves that silence made possible. Tomorrow's sim would demand more, the moral line between orders and conscience sharpening with each step into the unknown. Comment where you're watching from. I want to know how far stories of courage and integrity can reach. The desert night clung to the Mojave like a shroud, the chill seeping through the canvas walls of the field tents as the team settled into uneasy rest. Elena Vasquez lay on her cot, the coarse wool blanket pulled tight against the dropping temperature, her mind replaying the halted sim in fragmented loops. The faint hum of the misrigged wiring, Rex's insistent paw on the sand, Hale's clipped order to push through. Rex's crate stood sentinel at the foot of her bunk, his soft snores a counterpoint to the wind's low moan outside. Rattling the tent stakes, she reached down, fingers brushing the wire mesh, feeling the warmth of his body through it. No words needed. The bond hummed between them, a quiet assurance amid the uncertainty. Dawn broke with the precision of a command briefing, the first light filtering through the tent flaps in pale shafts that caught the dust motes dancing in the air. Master Chief Reed's voice carried from the central ops tent, summoning the platoon for an emergency stand-to. Elena rose swiftly, pulling on her utilities, the fabric stiff with yesterday's grit. She clipped Rex's lead, leading him out into the crisp air where the scent of cold earth and distant sagebrush sharpened the senses. The staging area buzzed with subdued activity. Operators checking gear by headlamp glow, the clink of magazines, and the murmur of low voices replacing the usual pre-mission chatter. Reed stood at the center, his silhouette framed by the folding table, laden with the incident logs and a steaming pot of field coffee. Hale flanked him, arms crossed over his chest plate, his face etched with the lines of a man recalibrating after a close call. Torres and the rest of the fire team formed a loose semicircle, boots shifting on the hardpan. "At ease," Reed began, his tone measured, eyes sweeping the group. "Last night's breach exposed a procedural lapse. The hazard was real, live voltage from an ungrounded demo unit. Vasquez's alert prevented escalation, but command's initiating a full review. No sims until cleared." Elena stood at attention with Rex at heel, his ears perked toward Reed's voice. The words hung in the cooling air, the faint crackle of a distant radio underscoring the gravity. Hale stepped forward, his gaze settling on her. "Petty officer's instincts were spot on, but the order to proceed was mine. I'll own that in the report. It was an admission, delivered without flourish, the kind that bound teams in shared accountability. Yet Eleanor sensed the underlayer. The review could spotlight her methods, the whisper-reinforced bond that Hale had once dismissed as inefficiency. The morning stretched into a holding pattern, the team confined to the perimeter under observation protocols. Elena took Rex for a controlled perimeter walk. The lead taut as they traced the wire boundary, his nose sampling the wind for any residual threats. The sun climbed, baking the ground and turning the air hazy with heat mirages. From the observation post, a pair of safety officers, detached from Nellis AFB, watched with clipboards. Their presence a reminder that near misses in training drew eyes from higher echelons. One of them, a stern-faced lieutenant commander, approached as Elena paused to note Rex's hydration log. "Handler Vasquez? Walk us through the alert sequence. Dog's response time?" She detailed it methodically. The initial chuff at 20 meters, the paw raise at confirmation, the micro-adjustments in Rex's posture, signaling urgency beyond sim props. He detected the electrical field, ozone trace in the air. Training data supports it. We've run similar scenarios in quals. The officer nodded, jotting notes, but his partner interjected, glancing at Rex. "And the handler cues? Reports mention vocal reinforcements during prep. Standard." Eleanor met his eyes steadily, the sun glinting off her dog tags. "Affirmative. Positive association enhances detection accuracy by 18% per the K9 program's metrics. It's protocol for integrated units." Rex sat alert beside her, oblivious to the scrutiny, his tail giving a single subtle thump against the dirt. The officers exchanged a look, then withdrew, their boots crunching away toward the ops tent. Elena felt the weight of it, their questions probing not just the incident, but the intangible thread she and Rex shared, the one that whispers had woven into unbreakable steel. By midday, the review escalated. A secure line connected Reed to Coronado's command staff, the tent's interior thick with the smell of overheated laptops and stale rations. Hale briefed the panel remotely, his voice projecting through the speaker. "The K9 integration proved its value. Recommend no changes to handler protocols." Elena listened from the flap, Rex's head resting against her knee as the conversation turned procedural. Whispers of non-standard methods surfaced from the other end, echoing Hale's old recommendations. Reed shut it down firmly. "Metrics don't lie. Vasquez's team saved the op from real damage. Full endorsement." The team reconvened for a working lunch under the awning, MRE pouches opened on folding tables, the clatter of utensils punctuating the forced normalcy. Torres slid a packet of crackers her way, his usual grin tempered. Heard the brasses chewing on it. Your dog's the hero, but they're side-eyeing the extras. Hale, seated across, tore into his chili mac with focus, then looked up. It's politics, Vasquez. Safety board wants black and white. But last night, that was grey area gold. No apology for the past mockery, but a nod of respect, the kind earned in the field where actions outranked words. Afternoon brought witness statements. The safety officers interviewing the platoon one by one in a partitioned corner of the tent. Elena's turn came last. The air conditioner humming against the heat as she sat with Rex under the table, his paw resting on her boot. Describe the decision point. The lead officer prompted, recorder whirring. She recounted it. Hale's order to push, Rex's escalating alert, her override call based on the dog's unerring read. Protocol allows handler discretion for imminent hazards. Rex's signal was clear, beyond simulation. The officer leaned forward, eyes narrowing. And the bond building? Whispers during transport, per logs. Could that introduce variables? Elena's response was even, her hands folded on the table. It minimizes them, sir. Trust reduces handler error by aligning responses. Data from prior ops, Afghanistan, the IED cache, backs it. Rex shifted slightly, sensing her tension, a low huff escaping him. The officer paused the recorder, rubbing his chin. We'll factor that. Dismissed. As she rose, leading Rex out, the Mojave wind picked up, carrying grains of sand that stung like tiny accusations. The review wasn't just about the hazard. It was a reckoning for her place in the chain, where loyalty to a dog challenged the rigid lines of command. Evening fell with the sim on indefinite hold, the team drilling light maintenance instead. Gear inspections under the floodlights, the sharp scent of solvent cutting the dusk. Reed pulled Elena aside near the fuel depot, the generators rumbling nearby. Commands leaning your way, but Hale's pulling strings for a compromise. Streamline the cues, they say. Prove it in the next run. She nodded, clipping a fresh battery into her radio. We'll adapt, Master Chief, but Rex doesn't. He clapped her shoulder, a rare gesture, then moved on. As the stars wheeled overhead, Eleanor settled Rex in his crate for the night. The desert's silence broken only by the occasional patrol radio check. The incident had rippled outward, forcing the institution to confront its own blind spots, the value of subtle bonds in a world of barked orders. Hale passed by the tent flap, pausing briefly. Solid work today. Keep that nose ahead. It was the closest to validation she'd get, a crack in the wall of skepticism. But Elena knew the true test loomed, resuming the sim, where mockery's echoes would fade only if actions proved unbreakable. In the quiet hours, with Rex's breathing a steady anchor, she traced the scars on his paw from past trainings, marks of shared trials. The review's outcome would shape more than one mission. It could redefine trust in the ranks, one alert at a time. The wind sighed through the tents, carrying the promise of dawn's demands, where conscience would demand its due. The first rays of dawn sliced through the Mojave's haze, turning the tent canvas a dull gold as the team stirred to life. Elena Vasquez moved with quiet efficiency, unzipping her cot and folding the blanket into precise thirds before securing it. Rex's crate rattled softly as he shifted, his nose pressing against the mesh in anticipation. She unlatched the door, clipping the lead with a familiar click, and led him out into the crisp air, where the scent of dew-kissed sagebrush mingled with the faint, lingering bite of yesterday's solvent. The staging area was already humming, generators coughing to life. The metallic tang of hot metal from warming engines cutting the chill. Master Chief Reed's call to muster echoed across the hardpan, drawing the platoon to the central table where fresh printouts from Coronado lay spread like tactical maps. Hale stood at Reed's side, his posture rigid, eyes shadowed from a night of report drafting. The safety officers from Nellis hovered nearby, clipboards in hand, their presence a constant undercurrent of scrutiny. "Platoon, attention!" Reed barked, his voice carrying over the wind's low whistle. Reviews cleared the sim for resumption at 0900. Adjustments to protocols. K9 handlers report direct-to-element leads on all alerts. No independent overrides without confirmation. Elena's grip tightened on Rex's lead, the leather warm against her palm. The order was clear, a buffer between her instincts and the chain, born from the hazard's fallout. Rex sat alert at her heel, his flanks rising steadily, oblivious to the shift, but attuned to her tension. Torres exchanged a glance with her from across the formation, his medkit slung low, but said nothing. The air felt thicker now, charged with the unspoken weight of accountability. Hale's eyes met hers briefly, a nod that conveyed both concession and caution. "Vasquez, you're still on point. Just sync with the team." The morning brief delved into modifications. Revised infill routes to avoid the compromised sector, enhanced EOD sweeps before K9 deployment. Elena absorbed it all, her notebook filling with notations on wind vectors and scent drift, factoring how Rex's reads might be filtered through Hale's confirmation. The sun climbed higher, baking the ground and sending heat waves shimmering off the distant rocks. As the team broke for final gear checks, she took Rex to the edge of the perimeter, running a silent diagnostic, hand signals for sit, stay, search. He responded flawlessly, his paw tapping the earth in mock alerts, but she felt the constraint like a shortened lead, pulling at the freedom their bond demanded. By 0830, the Black Hawk's rotors thumped overhead, the downdraft whipping sand into stinging clouds that forced eyes to narrow. The team loaded in sequence, Elena securing Rex in the jump seat harness, his body pressed close to absorb the vibrations. Hale boarded last, settling across from her, his helmet mic crackling as he ran a final comms test. "All elements, sound off." Affirmatives rolled in, voices clipped and professional, the cabin filling with the scent of oiled leather and anticipation sweat. No banter today. The near miss had etched a line of sobriety into the unit. Insertion mirrored the previous night. Fast rope into the deepening shadows of the wash, boots and paws hitting the cooling sand with muffled impacts. The helo's echo faded, leaving the team in a pocket of silence, broken only by the rustle of utilities and the faint beep of NVGs powering up. Hale's voice cut through. "Alpha, advance to objective. Vasquez, Rex sweeps the approach. Report alerts to me." Elena acknowledged, releasing Rex on a controlled lead, his form ghosting ahead through the scrub. The air carried the dry mineral edge of the desert floor, laced with traces of creosote and distant rain. They moved in tight formation, bounding from cover to cover, the compound silhouette emerging under the waxing moon. Rex's nose worked methodically, nostrils flaring at each shift in the breeze. His body language, a language only Elena fully read. The subtle ear flick for neutral, the lowered head for potential. At 50 meters from the wire, he paused, chuffing low toward a shadowed depression in the terrain. Elena signaled halt, her hand on his collar feeling the taut coil of his muscles. "Possible IED indicator east flank," she whispered into her mic, voice pitched to the net. Hale's response was immediate, edged with the review's echo. "Confirm visually. Torres, flank and scan." The corpsman peeled off, his flashlight beam probing the sand in controlled sweeps, while Elena held position, Rex straining slightly against the lead. The moment stretched, the wind sighing through the rocks like a held breath. Torres reported negative, no props in the sim layout, but Rex persisted, pawing insistently, his growl vibrating through her glove. Elena's pulse quickened. This wasn't simulation residue. Trusting the bond, she added, "Dogs locked on. Recommend hold and deeper probe." A beat of static, then hail. "Negative. It's clear. Push to breach." Dun, the order clashed against her reed, duty pulling one way, conscience the other. In the chain's rigid frame, overrides risked insubordination, but Rex's alert screamed truth, honed from ops where hesitation cost lives. The team stacked at the entry, sim rounds chambered, the air thick with tension. Elena hesitated, her free hand hovering over the quick release, the moral fault line cracking open. To obey meant sidelining the very intuition that had saved them before. To defy invited the tribunal's gaze. As Hale's breaches moved, a faint click echoed from the depression. Not pyro, but real. A shifted rock dislodging a buried survey stake from the engineer's markup, its metal glint catching moonlight. No hazard, but the potential for trip. A real-world echo of the prior night's lapse. Rex's alert had flagged the anomaly, preventing a twisted ankle or worse in the dark. Elena reported it softly. Stake confirmed. Alert validated. Hale paused the advance, his voice over comms carrying a new timbre. "Copy. Good call. Mark and bypass." The breach proceeded smoothly from there, the team clearing the structure with mechanical precision. Flashlights cutting shadows in the mock rooms rigged with inert threats. Elena and Rex held the cordon, sweeping the perimeter as simfire popped in controlled bursts, the acrid scent of blank rounds filling the night. Deeper in, another alert from Rex, a waft toward a ceiling panel, led to Torres uncovering a loose beam, another oversight that could have collapsed under weight. Hale's confirmations came quicker now, the buffer bending under the evidence of Rex's nose. Exfil wrapped under the helo's returning thump, the team lifting off with the objective secured, no casualties simulated or otherwise. Back at staging, the floodlights bathed the area in stark white, revealing the fine layer of dust on every surface. Reed debriefed under the tent, the air heavy with cooling coffee, and exhaled relief. Metrics logged, K9 integration intact, alerts prevented 2 procedural snags. Hale turned to Elena as the group dispersed, his expression stripped of prior edges. "That hold saved steps. Your Reed and the dogs carried it." She nodded, unclipping Rex's harness, the dog's tongue lolling in quiet satisfaction as she offered water from her canteen. Torres lingered, handing her a spare med-wipe for the sand. No ghost this time. Solid. But as the safety officers compiled notes nearby, Elena felt the ripple extend. The review's logs would capture it, her discretion in the face of orders tipping the scales toward validation. The whispers at base had mocked the bond. Here, in the desert's unforgiving test, it fortified the chain. Night deepened, the stars a vast canopy over the tents. Elena settled Rex with a grooming brush, the strokes rhythmic against his coat, loosening the day's grit. The wind carried faint radio chatter from the ops line, discussions of formal endorsements filtering down. Hale's compromise push had faltered against the data, the institution inching toward recognizing the subtle as strength. In the quiet, with Rex's head resting on her boot, she traced the path ahead. The full mission sim tomorrow, where conscience's cost would etch deeper into legacy. The moral tension lingered like desert chill, a reminder that true loyalty demanded defiance when orders blinded the way. As the generators hummed into standby, Elena closed her eyes. The bond's silence, louder than any command, echoed in the ranks. The Mojave's relentless dawn painted the tent lines in stark relief, the first light glinting off dew-slicked gear racks as the team rose for the final sim run. Elena Vasquez moved through her pre-mission routine with the quiet precision of habit, folding her cot and securing Rex's crate before clipping his lead. The air carried the sharp bite of frost-kissed sand, mingling with the faint, oily residue from overnight maintenance. Rex emerged alert, his paws padding softly on the chilled hardpan, nostrils flaring at the shifting scents of diesel and distant creosote. She ran a quick check, harness fittings, scent pouch integrity, her gloved hands steady, despite the undercurrent of anticipation thrumming through the camp. Master Chief Reed's muster call cut through the morning hush, the platoon assembling under the ops tent where the wind tugged at the canvas edges. Hale stood at the forefront, his utilities crisp despite the dust, briefing packet in hand. The safety officers from Nellis lingered at the periphery, their notepads open, the review's shadow still casting long. "Full spectrum resumption," Reed announced, his voice gravel over the radio static. "Infill, hold, extract under max resistance. Vasquez, Rex on primary detection. Alerts direct to Hale for confirmation. No holds without cause." Elena stood at ease with Rex at heel, feeling the protocol's weight like an added plate carrier, the buffer between Bond and command now etched in official orders. The team dispersed to loadout, the clatter of buckles and the low murmur of final checks filling the staging area. Elena knelt with Rex near the Humvee, running silent cues, palm for search, fist for hold, his responses crisp, body coiling in sync. Hale approached, helmet under arm, his expression a mask of focus. "Last run sets the metrics. Dogs proven. Keep the line tight." No trace of the base's old mockery, just the pragmatic edge of a leader adapting to evidence. She nodded, rising. "Affirmative, sir." "Will mark clean." Torres fell in nearby, adjusting his corpsman pack, offering a quick thumbs up that spoke volumes in the charged quiet. By 0800, the Black Hawk's rotors whipped the air into a frenzy, sand devils spiraling as the team boarded. Elena secured Rex in the harness, the cabin vibrating with engine hum, the scent of heated metal, and anticipation sweat thick. Hale's voice over internal comms. "Elements, sync watches, drop in 5. The bird lifted, banking over the jagged terrain, the desert unfolding below like a tactical map, dry washes snaking toward the compound, shadowed ridges hiding OP4 positions. Elena's hand rested on Rex's flank, feeling his steady breath amid the turbulence, the Bond a silent anchor as the ground rushed up. Insertion hit at 8:30, fast rope into a narrow arroyo, the downdraft scattering pebbles like shrapnel. Boots and paws absorbed the drop, the team fanning out in low crouch, NVGs flipping down against the glare. The helo's thump receded, leaving the wind's whisper and the faint crackle of earpieces. Hale's lead. Alpha, advance to phase line Bravo. Vasquez, sweep the choke point. Adbeend. They ghosted forward, bounding through scrub, the earth crunching softly under measured steps. Rex ranged on his lead, nose to the ground, his black form blending with the shadows as he sampled the air currents laced with mineral dust and faint chemical traces. Tension coiled as they neared the objective, the compound's wire perimeter shimmering in the heat haze. At the choke, a bottleneck ravine, Rex halted abruptly, his body stiffening, a low chuff escaping as he poured the scree. Eleanor signaled the team down, her mic live. Alert at 12 o'clock, explosive indicator, strong read. Hale's confirmation request came swift. Visual scan, Torres, probe. The corpsman advanced cautiously, detector wands sweeping, but Rex intensified, circling tighter. His growl vibrating through the lead. Elena's pulse sharpened. The Sim's props were calibrated, but this felt layered, ozone and accelerant, beyond inert Sims. Negative on scan, Torres reported, but doubt edged his voice. Hale waded over the net. Push forward, breach in 60. The order pulled like gravity, protocol demanding obedience, but Rex's alert screamed override, his eyes locking on Elena's in urgent plea. Conscience clashed. Defy and risk the chain's fracture or comply and court the unseen peril. In the Arroyo's confines, with the team stacked behind, she made the call, voice firm. Recommend abort flank. Dogs locked. Imminent hazard. Static hissed. Then hail. Hold position. Confirming. The pause stretched eternal, wind sighing through the rocks, until a faint tremor rippled the ground. Not sympyro, but real, a seismic aftershock from a distant quake line, common in the Mojave but unforecasted. It loosened a boulder cascade from the ravine wall, tumbling toward the choke with grinding roar. Rex's warning had flagged the instability, the vibration-sensitive nose detecting micro-shifts in the earth, scents of disturbed stone and potential crush zones. "Move! Up the slope!" Hale barked, the team scrambling as rocks bounded past, one grazing Torres's pack with a crack. Airfield accelerated, the Black Hawks swooping in under emergency protocols, rotors thundering as they winched up amid the settling dust. Back at staging, the tent reeked of adrenaline and grit, the safety officers swarming with queries. Reed's debrief was terse. Alert prevented casualties, full seismic log pending, but K9 flagged it pre-collapse. Hale faced Eleanor, helmet off, sweat tracking lines on his face. That red saved the element, override noted, endorsed. No fanfare, just the raw acknowledgement, the mockery's remnants buried under the weight of survival. As the sun peaked, scorching the hardpan, the review board convened remotely, voices piping through the speaker in clipped analysis. Elena detailed the sequence. Rex's paw tap at 0. 8 seconds post-alert, her discretion call based on bond metrics. The officers probed, handler input versus chain. She held steady. Integrated response, sir. Data from the bond enhances accuracy, 22% in variable threats. Rex lay at her feet, tail thumping once, as Hale added his weight. Lieutenant confirming, K9 integration critical. Recommend protocol expansion for non-standard detections. The afternoon blurred into documentation, statements flowing like after-action reports, the incident rippling upward to Coronado. Torres clapped her shoulder in the mess line, MRE steam curling. Silent partner pulled it. Respect. Whispers among the platoon shifted, from skepticism to quiet nods, the bond's proof etching into unit lore. Reed pulled her aside near the kennel crates, the air cooling with evening's approach. Command's green-lighting your methods. Hale's report backs full autonomy on alerts. You've turned the tide. As dusk settled, stars pricking the vast sky, Elena groomed Rex under the floodlights, brushstrokes loosening the day's embedded sand, his fur warm and resilient. The generators thrummed low, carrying faint radio chatter of endorsements filtering down. The Sims' near catastrophe had forced reform, the institution adapting, whispers evolving into protocol, her integrity a catalyst for change. Hale passed by, pausing. Team owes you, and him. Clean work. It was the bridge, loyalty forged in the desert's unforgiving forge. In the tense quiet, with Rex's breathing a steady rhythm beside her cot, Eleanor felt the legacy take shape. One handler's conscience, one dog's silence, had saved the team mid-mission, rippling through ranks to redefine trust. The wind hushed outside, the Mojave holding its breath for the return to base, where moral strength would echo in every formation. If this story already has your respect, hit the like button. It helps the story of Elena Vasquez reach those who still believe in honor. The Mojave's night air cooled to a biting edge, the floodlights casting elongated shadows across the staging area as the team processed the final sim's abrupt end. Elena Vasquez knelt beside Rex's crate, her fingers methodically wiping down his harness with a damp cloth, the faint scent of desert sage clinging to the leather. The dog's flanks rose and fell in even rhythm, his amber eyes half-lidded in post-mission repose. But Elena's mind raced through the cascade of alerts, the seismic tremor, the tumbling boulders, Hale's endorsed override. The generators hummed steadily nearby, their vibration a low underscore to the distant murmur of the safety officers compiling data under the ops tent. Master Chief Reed emerged from the brief, his boots crunching on the gravel as he approached, a tablet clutched in one gloved hand. "Vasquez, stand by for formal debrief. Commands looping in from Coronado, full board." She rose, clipping the crate shut with a soft click, and nodded. "Understood, Master Chief." Hale lingered at the tent flap, his silhouette framed by the glow within, exchanging low words with Torres before turning her way. "That call on the ravine? Textbook discretion. Logs will show it." His tone carried no residual edge, just the procedural weight of a leader recalibrating the chain. Elena met his gaze, her response clipped. "Team first, sir." The debrief tent was a cocoon of fluorescent hum and cooling coffee, the air thick with the residue of MRE wrappers and overheated electronics. The safety officers sat at the folding table, flanked by Reed and Hale, while Elena took position at the end with Rex at her feet, his lead coiled neatly on the floor. A secure video link flickered to life on the laptop screen, revealing the stern faces of Coronado's K-9 program director and a cluster of senior officers, their uniforms crisp even through the digital haze. "Petty Officer Vasquez," the director began, his voice tinny over the speakers, "walk us through the sequence. Alert to override every detail." She recounted it methodically, her voice steady as she referenced her handler log. Rex's initial chuff at the choke point, the paw tap confirming instability, the micro-vibrations in the earth that his sensitive nose had translated into an imminent threat. "Protocol buffer required confirmation, sir." Lieutenant Hale's scan cleared, but the dog's red escalated. "Seismic precursor sense, disturbed particulates. I held for validation, preventing the cascade." The board leaned in. Questions probing like range quals, response latency, bond metrics, the whisper reinforcements logged in prior preps. Elena fielded them without flourish, citing data, 22% accuracy boost from trust queues, cross-referenced with Afghanistan ops. Hale interjected from his seat, his input measured. Element lead confirming. The override aligned with ROE discretion for hazards. K-9 integration mitigated real risk, casualties avoided. The director nodded slowly, the screen's glow reflecting off his glasses. "Noted, this incident highlights procedural gaps in non-standard detections. Full review incoming." As the link cut, the tent exhaled, the weight of scrutiny lifting slightly. Reed clapped the table once, decisive. "Solid. Pack it in. Wheels up at 0600 for Coronado." Udu, the return convoy, rolled out at first light, the Mojave's vast expanse giving way to the blurred ribbon of highway, dust plumes trailing in the rear views. Elena rode in the rear Humvee, with Rex secured beside her, the vehicle's sway lulling him into a watchful doze. The radio chatter was subdued, maintenance checks, weather updates from Pendleton. But Elena felt the shift in the platoon, a subtle realignment in the glances and nods as they rotated shifts. Torres passed back a water bottle during a fuel stop, his grin faint but genuine. "Your Whisper Squad just rewrote the playbook, earned it." Coronado's gates loomed by midday, the Pacific salt breeze cutting the desert's dry memory as the team offloaded at the K-9 annex. The kennels welcomed them with familiar routine. Fresh straw rustling underfoot, water bowls clinking as handlers checked their charges. Elena led Rex through his cool-down, the hose spray misting his coat, droplets catching the sun in brief rainbows. Master Chief Reed summoned her to the Ops Center post-settlement, the room smelling of fresh ink and polished brass. Board's report dropped. Endorsement for expanded handler autonomy, bond-building protocols, now standard for integrated units. She absorbed it, standing at attention, Rex sitting alert at her side. "Copy, sir." But Reed's expression softened a fraction. the lines around his eyes deepening. Hale's addendum pushed it through. No more streamlining notes from him. Outside, the base stirred with afternoon drills. The distant bark of other K9s echoing off the barracks, a chorus of loyalty in motion. The public reckoning unfolded in layers, starting with the unit's after-action brief 2 days later. The platoon assembled in the briefing hall, rows of folding chairs filled with operators in starched utilities, the air humming with the low buzz of overhead fans. Hale took the podium, his voice projecting clear over the microphone. This Mojave cycle tested us. Near misses exposed blind spots, but one element turned the tide. Petty Officer Vasquez and Rex. Their alerts flagged seismic instability, saving the team from real injury. Integration proven. Methods validated. Murmurs rippled through the ranks, the old whispers of mockery silenced by the facts, replaced by nods of quiet respect. Elena stood at the side, Rex's lead in hand. As Hale continued, "Chain of command adapts. Discretion on K9 reads now protocol. Trust the bond." The room applauded crisply, boots shifting in unison, the sound a thunder of affirmation. Torres leaned over from his seat, whispering, "Told you, nose knows." But Elena kept her focus forward, the weight of eyes on her not as judgment, but acknowledgement. Word spread beyond the platoon, filtering into the broader naval special warfare community. A classified bulletin circulated through commands, citing the incident as a case study in ethical decision-making, duty tempered by conscience, orders yielding to evidence. Elena's file thickened with commendations, a Navy Achievement Medal pending, her name attached to revised training manuals. In the handler's mess, veterans swapped stories, one grizzled E7 raising his mug. Vasquez's dog didn't just save a sim, shifted the whole damn paradigm. The reform rippled outward, quiet but inexorable. Coronado's K9 program incorporated her metrics into quals. Whisper cues as standard reinforcement. Bonds measured not as softness, but strategic asset. Hale, now advocating in staff meetings, pushed for cross-unit pairings, his reports emphasizing the intangible, loyalty's edge in rigid systems. Elena mentored new handlers, her sessions in the scent lanes drawing crowds, Rex demonstrating with unflinching precision. "It's not defiance," she'd explained, voice even. "It's alignment, human and canine reading the unseen." Weeks later, at a base ceremony under the Pacific's endless blue, Elena pinned her medal beside Rex's updated service tag, the sun glinting off the polished surface. Hale saluted her there, hand held a beat longer than protocol. "You and that dog changed how we operate." She returned it crisply, Rex's tail giving a single thump against the concrete. The institution had learned, not through spectacle, but through the steady proof of integrity. A handler's conscience, a K9's silence, forging reform from the front lines. In the quiet aftermath, as the base's evening formation echoed with crisp commands, Elena walked Rex along the shore, the waves' rhythm mirroring their shared breath. One act of trust had echoed through the ranks, a legacy of moral strength where whispers became the foundation of unbreakable loyalty. Subscribe for more stories of loyalty, courage, and justice within the ranks. Thank you for watching the case of They Mocked Her for Whispering to Her Dog. Then the silent K9 saved the entire SEAL team, mid-mission. See you in the next one.